New Hope, there will ultimately be times that there will be a relational cost. And you cannot be his disciple if that secondary thing becomes your primary thing. And that is the cost of discipleship. Let's take a look at the passage today. I choose Jesus, what? No matter how hard the loss. We pick up the passage beginning in verse 25. Verse 25 says this, now, great crowds accompanied him. New Hope, stop for a moment. We don't know how many, but listen, probably in the thousands. The notoriety, the popularity of Jesus is growing, and as Jesus now is extending his 3-year ministry in the land of Israel, there's been healings, there's been raising from the dead, there's been calming of the storms, multiplying of the food. The people are enamored with what he is, and not just his popularity, but his authority of teaching. But Jesus is going to have a word with these crowds. Take a look. Now, great crowds accompanied him, and he turned and said to them. And what is going to proceed from his mouth is a filtering system of what it means to be a true disciple. Here's the heartbeat of what he's getting at. Looking around him is cultural, you would say, cultural Christians. They're following him because they are curious in his popularity. But notably missing, they are not committed to his divinity. And Jesus is going to pierce through that all by saying, listen, if you want to come after me, yes, come, follow me, come. But let's be very clear that there's going to be a great cost in discipleship. As I prepare this message for you to get to the heartbeat of what Jesus is speaking to his audience, I speak the same thing to you. Listen, we are in a culture right now of people, young and old, and even here in our midst who, listen, the tendency is that we can be very curious about the nature of Jesus. We can even be here because of the popularity of Jesus or how good it kind of feels to be here. But listen, that in itself does not make one a disciple of Jesus. You can be very curious about the work and the person of Jesus without being fully committed to his work, and this is where Jesus now cuts to the heart. Speaking out to these great crowds who are following him as Jesus is marching towards the cross itself. Look at what Jesus says. If anyone comes to me and does not hate, does your Bible say hate there? Yes. Okay, mine does too. Isn't that weird? If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, read it, he cannot be my disciple. Whoa. Some of you have read this hundreds of times. Others of you, perhaps you've never read this. What is this? What's going on? Doesn't Jesus often talk about love? Isn't he also the one who said, you've heard it said, hate your enemies, but I say to you, love your enemies and do good to those who persecute you. Yes, it's the same one. The same guy, the same Messiah who said, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you, is now the same one who says, if anyone comes to me and does not, say it, hate, there it is, hate who? Hate what? Father, mother, brother, sisters, wife, children, yeah, even your own life, he cannot be my disciple. What is he getting at? Now, in the first service, I had the privilege to preach this passage, and I had my father, my mother, my brother, my wife, my children are now here, my sister, all of them were here. What a perfect opportunity, right? But listen, is he really calling us to a sense of aggression, or is he dealing more with a degree of comparison? And I think as you understand and read the words of Jesus, you will understand he's not talking about a hostility that we're to have towards our family members, nor is he talking about a certain level of aggression. Rather, what he's getting at is a degree of comparison. Here's what I mean by that. The word hate, even that he uses right here, means this. It means to love someone or something less than something else. This is what he's getting at. It's a degree of comparison. What Christ is getting at with his follower, the great crowd of people, is he's saying this: if you want to come after me, there's a certain level of priority that your love and your commitment for me must have. In fact, it must be a love and a commitment for Jesus that supersedes every other secondary love and commitment. It supersedes your love and commitment to your children. Your love of Jesus supersedes your love and commitment to your own spouse. Your love of Jesus supersedes your secondary loves, every single one of them. Yes, even that gorgeous grandson and granddaughter. It is a love of Jesus that says, I'm with him. I choose him. And if ever I have to choose between two loves, mark my words, I choose Jesus. Now, that sounds grandiose and big, but let me tell you, when the rubber meets the road, that is super difficult to do. And I recognize after being here so many years, I am not only looking at faces that have endured this, but I myself have had moments of enduring these things when all of a sudden you're faced with a choice between your primary love and commitment to Jesus the Christ or your secondary loves that would be a family member or something who opposes the very teachings that you cling to. And those are the moments where you recognize, am I a disciple of Jesus or not? Yes, I choose Jesus no matter how hard the loss. A key thought here. Key thought would go like this. Any secondary thing, mother, brother, spouse, children, grandchildren, any secondary thing that threatens the primary thing, that is your love and your commitment of Jesus, is to be viewed as a dangerous thing. Jesus says you cannot be his disciple unless when it comes to that degree of comparison that he holds the primary spot. He holds the number one position. He is your primary love. He is your primary commitment. That is what Jesus is driving at. Now, what that means practically, New Hope, is this: that each one of us perhaps comes to those intersections of life when we are receiving hostility from the very people that we love. We are receiving tension. We have tensions within marriages, tension within the homes. We have children. And so what it looks like practically is that even if, consider this, and this list I've developed here is not just some like grabbing out of the air ideas. Listen, I have thought behind these are the faces and names of New Hope people who are living this right now, where their primary affection for Jesus is being tested by a secondary one. Even if parents shame you, it happens here. Even if friends forsake you, children ghost you, grandkids are kept from you, work fires you, culture cancels you. Listen, Jesus is worth it. He's worth it. But when it comes to the cost of discipleship, and if you think through these three things this way, let me put it like this. In this first instance, I'm going to say this: there's a relational cost to being a disciple. There's a relational cost. And the second thing we're going to deal with is a sacrificial cost. And the third thing is going to be a material cost. But listen, as we follow Christ as Lord, and as he maintains that number one position of our heart, that number one allegiance, New Hope, there will ultimately be times that there will be a relational cost. And you cannot be his disciple if that secondary thing becomes your primary thing. Jesus wants our utter allegiance, our love and our commitment to him. And I choose Jesus, even no matter how hard the loss.